Welcome back to the chat. We're sure that by now you've seen coverage from Ferguson, Missouri, after a grand jury decided not to indict a police officer in the shooting death of a teenager, Michael Brown. Joining us now to discuss the legal aspects of the case is our legal contributor, Heather Quick. Heather, thank you for being here. Let's first take a step back and talk about the grand jury process, how that works.
Well, it's similar to the regular jury in a trial where you're part of the pool. And in Florida, we use the driver's license pool for jurors, and you will get a notice that you're going to be on a grand jury, and that could be for 3 or 4 months, could be 6 months, and they'll just say, we'll call you when a case is coming. And ideally that is randomly selected, and okay, we need you 12 people in here for 2 days to make a decision, because although you'll have service for say 6 months, you're really probably going to go in maybe once a month, depending on what's going on.
How many people are on this grand jury?
Generally, they're going to pick close to 12, 10 to 12. It doesn't have to be unanimous. Usually, there just needs to be a majority of a decision.
And so when you say these people are picked during a regular, you have jury selection, so you can see who's on that jury and pick. So that doesn't work that way?
No, the grand jury is quite different. It's basically run by the prosecutors. It's the prosecutor's show. You, as a defendant, you can go and testify if you want, but your counsel, your attorney's not there to question anyone. It's completely run.
And all they're looking for is what, probable cause?
Yes, in order to charge. So you're having a reasonable, indict someone versus doing it on your own. And many times in a politically charged crime, the prosecutors say, hey, I'm not going to make the individual decision. We're going to present the evidence to a grand jury using that system so that the purpose is to remove the appearance of someone using a bias, coming after somebody. Let these 12 people see the evidence and see if there's enough to move forward.
But Heather, didn't it have the opposite effect in this case? This grand jury was so controversial from day one.
Yes, it really was, and it's particularly in a case like this. They're so heated. There's the racial issues, very emotional, and you have the officer shooting, and it would appear that it would have been easy for them to indict, but the evidence is, it was not.
And they were the only ones to have seen all of the evidence, the people in the grand jury. I mean, they weren't leaking any of this to the media, or they were the only ones that were to be presented this.
That's correct. That's
correct.
So now we've got the charges. He was not charged, the officer, by the state criminally, but he is still facing federal charges, correct?
Well, that's always an option. If there's a federal statute that's violated, the federal government can issue charges.
What kind of federal charges would they be if he were to be brought up?
I think that what we heard from Attorney General was maybe a civil rights violation, and if they can proceed under that statute. And because he's employed by the city and a government agency, that's what will allow them to look at that and determine. But they're going to look at the evidence. We already had a grand jury look at it. Are you going to spend the money to prosecute this if it's not going to likely succeed?
Now, what about the family? They have the potential for a lawsuit, I take it?
Yes, absolutely. They have the right for a civil suit and will more likely than not file one. And
that would be on what grounds would they be filing?
It could be probably wrongful death, could be a civil rights as well, and and within that state, if there are any other statutes that may meet that requirement. But also, anytime there is a criminal case, as we know, the civil law does correspond, and if there are damages, and they're going to go against the city and the state. So.
Now, unfortunately, we've all seen the video of all the looting and rioting that's going on. And it just irks me because I can't seem to understand why. Why would you destroy your stuff? But anyway, that's a whole different story. Could any of those people be identified from that video and charged with any type of crime?
Absolutely.
Other than stupidity?
Absolutely, and they should. And whether or not they will, use their resources to do that, it's so unfortunate, allowing these emotions to carry on as criminal acts. It doesn't right any wrong. It doesn't make anything change, and it's atrocious. I think they should put them all in jail. I think it's terrible.
Okay, we want to ask you about another story that has been in the news, and this one is from the University of Virginia, has suspended all of their fraternities following a Rolling Stone article focused on rape in the campus. Okay, well, first of all, let's just summarize what's happened at UVA.
The article in the Rolling Stone, if you haven't read it, I would encourage you to, because it's alarming. It's so sad. It is so sad to see what goes on in universities and this woman's story, and how she's encouraged to not say anything, and she was gang raped at a fraternity, and it was part of their rush week. And if you want to be part of the fraternity, you're going to join in and do this. And she's raped by 7 individuals, and the environment, and the story goes through that, and the environment of the university to hush it up. Oh, you're going to be ostracized. No one's going to like you, and then other people, oh, then they're not going to invite us to their parties. And it's interesting to note at UVA, you'll be expelled for cheating, but no one's ever been expelled for rape.
Wow.
I mean, that is a sad commentary on that college, and probably the majority of colleges in this country, which is why so many of them right now are under investigation, because it's a shame that we have young men who believe for a second that there's anything right about that at all, and to blame the women, which is constantly with everybody's dressing their daughters, going to school, don't drink an open drink, don't do this. Like, what about these guys?
Yeah.
Where's all that intervention?
Now, the fraternities have been suspended, but not for a real long time, right?
Oh, yeah, that's their harsh punishment. Okay, we're about to enter Thanksgiving week. They're going to be they are suspended through January 9th. Okay, we have Thanksgiving break, Christmas break, and school starts back on the 9th. Wow, that's harsh. That is taking a
Is that
strong
like pending
stance.
an investigation?
No,
and
they're like,
they're
that's when we're
lose
going to
their
be
charter?
suspended, only until the 9th.
Well, the letter that the president wrote was that we've got to take another look at ourselves and how we're behaving as a community. And the impression I got from that letter was very sincere. Was we're shutting it down, we're taking another look at it, and it may or may not be lifted if we can't come to a solution with this. Was that not your impression of that?
No, my impression was it was hey, this is what we're doing. But when we really look at the details, they're going to be out of school for more than half of the time that she has put this date of suspension. So I think that's just a Band-Aid to try to make them look good. The school has a lot of recent history of, a woman was killed in 2010, and there was just all these things by her boyfriend and both students.
What about charges filed against these guys who did this?
That's going to be tough because,
Really?
well, when we talked about statute of limitations the last time, now she doesn't know
when
who
did this happen?
In 2012, and we're at
2012.
2014 now. The problem with it being, she didn't know who most of them are. She knows who some of them are. There's no physical evidence. And the reality of this time of this girl is she's come far to be able to report this story, but is she going to really be able to endure a trial? And is she going to have enough evidence for the prosecutors to even have a chance of winning? Because really they've got pretty much her testimony. It sounds like there's several witnesses after the fact, but there's no physical evidence,
Well,
so
to be
it's really
continued.
sad.
I'm sure this
Absolutely.
is not the end of this story.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you, Heather, as always, for joining us. We appreciate you. And if you have any questions or need legal advice, you can always check out the Quick Law Group's website, which is thequicklawgroup.com. Well, still to come on the chat, could the answer to your relationship woes be in your genetic makeup? We're going to hear from our relationship expert, Dr. Richard Marks, on new research that says you could be born to be single. We'll explain coming up.